Hello friends, welcome back to Inner Spark, the place where stories light the fire inside you. This story will take you on a journey through self-discovery. You'll meet David, a man from London who thought happiness was found in wealth, status, and approval, until life showed him a deeper truth. Through struggles, realizations, and turning points, you'll see how inner awareness opens the door to peace and joy. Stick with me until the end. You may just see your own life differently. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Inner Spark, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that happiness comes from within. David grew up in a bustling part of London, where every conversation seemed to circle around careers, houses, and salaries. From a young age, he absorbed the belief that the measure of a person was their bank account or their title at work. Teachers praised his grades, relatives admired his ambition, and he grew addicted to that recognition. Yet even in his teenage years, there were quiet moments where he wondered if this was all there was. Something in him longed for meaning, but he buried it under the chase for approval. By the time he was in his late 20s, David was living in New York, working at one of the most prestigious firms in the city. His office looked out at the skyline. His salary was enviable, and colleagues admired his relentless energy. To the outside world, he was the definition of success. But nights alone in his apartment told a different story. He often sat in silence, exhausted, feeling strangely hollow. The life he built looked full on the surface, but deep down he was running on empty. To fill that emptiness, David leaned into the only thing he knew: buying more, earning more, achieving more. He upgraded his car, spent on designer suits, and booked luxury holidays in Europe and beyond. Each purchase gave him a temporary high, the kind that made him believe happiness was finally within reach. But just like sugar, the rush faded quickly, leaving him with the same aching void. The more he gained, the more restless he felt. His reflection in the mirror was polished, but his soul was quietly breaking. Friends noticed the change, even if David tried to hide it. At dinner parties, his smile looked rehearsed, and when conversations slowed, he withdrew into silence. His colleagues praised his work ethic, yet some whispered he was burning out. Even his family sensed something missing in his voice during phone calls. But David brushed off their concerns. After all, wasn't this what success was supposed to feel like? Still, when the noise faded, he couldn't escape the truth. He was chasing a happiness that always slipped through his fingers. One evening, fate introduced him to Sarah, a teacher from Boston who carried herself with a calm simplicity. She didn't own much, didn't brag about achievements, but there was something magnetic in her peace. At a small gathering, David asked her bluntly, "How do you stay so content when life is so demanding?" Sarah smiled and said softly, "Because I know myself. I don't chase what isn't mine. I live in line with who I am." Those words pierced him in a way no book or lecture ever had. That night, David tossed and turned, replaying Sarah's words in his head. For the first time, he asked himself a question he had avoided all his life. Do I even know who I am? Or have I just been living someone else's definition of success? He realized he had never stopped long enough to truly listen to his own heart. The thought scared him. It meant everything he had been chasing might not have been his dream at all, but the dream society handed to him. Over the next weeks, David tried something new: slowing down. Instead of rushing into the office at dawn, he started taking morning walks through the park. Instead of answering emails late into the night, he sat with silence and noticed what bubbled up. At first, it was uncomfortable. The quiet felt like a stranger. But gradually, he began to rediscover pieces of himself he had long buried. Small sparks of forgotten passions flickered to life. He remembered how much joy painting once gave him, how being near nature always felt healing, and how real conversations mattered more to him than endless business meetings. These weren't glamorous achievements, but they stirred something genuine in his heart. For the first time in years, he felt joy that wasn't tied to a paycheck or a title. Happiness felt natural rather than staged, and it awakened a hunger to keep exploring. Still, letting go of old habits wasn't easy. His colleagues noticed he no longer volunteered for weekend overtime and teased him for losing his edge. Some hinted he might be throwing away opportunities others would die for. Fear whispered that he was falling behind in a race he had trained his whole life to win. But whenever doubts pressed in, he remembered Sarah's calm voice. Peace doesn't come from performance, it comes from alignment. That became his anchor. David began drawing boundaries that once felt impossible. He left work on time, stopped chasing unnecessary projects, and chose dinners with close friends over corporate events. He didn't stop working hard, but he stopped letting work consume him. These choices gave him room to breathe, and in that space, he reconnected with a voice inside he had ignored for too long. That voice didn't demand wealth or fame, it simply asked to be heard. One Saturday, he signed up for a local art class back in London. Nervous at first, he picked up a brush and dipped it into color. As the paint spread across the canvas, something inside him came alive. He wasn't painting for anyone's approval, wasn't aiming to sell his work. He was painting for the pure joy of creating. That moment felt richer than any bonus check he had ever received, and he knew he had tapped into something real. Over the next few months, David's energy shifted in ways others could feel. He laughed more freely, walked more lightly, and spoke with genuine warmth. Friends commented that he seemed different, happier, freer, more at peace. Ironically, the happiness he once chased through promotions and purchases now flowed naturally, simply because he allowed himself to be himself. He no longer forced joy. He simply lived it. Of course, the journey wasn't free from struggle. Some days doubts returned, whispering whether he was being irresponsible for stepping back from the grind. Other days, loneliness crept in, making him question if people would still respect him without his status. But with each challenge, he learned to anchor himself in truth. Knowing himself didn't erase problems. It gave him strength to face them without losing his center. He grew bolder in saying no. No to projects that drained him. No to expectations that didn't fit his values. No to social circles that only cared about appearances. And with every no, he made space for a deeper yes. Yes to painting, yes to peace, yes to relationships that truly mattered. For the first time, his life felt like his own. His relationships began to transform. 2. Without the mask of perfection, his friendships deepened. He shared more openly, and others felt safe to do the same. Conversations became honest, connections became real, and he experienced what it meant to be truly seen and truly heard. It wasn't about quantity of friends, but quality of connection, and that was far richer. David also picked up journaling. Every night, he wrote reflections about his day, about what gave him energy and what drained it. Some pages were simple. I need quiet mornings to feel balanced. Others were raw confessions. I've been terrified of failure, but I'm realizing failure doesn't define me. These pages became a mirror, slowly revealing the man he had always been, but never allowed himself to meet. Months turned into a year, and David looked back on how far he had come. He was still working, still earning, still facing challenges. But something fundamental had changed. His happiness no longer depended on external achievements. It came from the inside, from living in alignment with his true self. He wasn't chasing happiness anymore, he was carrying it within him. One quiet evening, walking along the Thames, David thought of Sarah again. He whispered to himself, "You were right. Knowing yourself is the secret." The river flowed beside him, and for the first time in years, he felt in complete harmony with the moment. The chase was over. He had arrived at a peace no salary, title, or applause could ever buy. Conclusion: true happiness doesn't come from possessions, promotions, or other people's approval. Like David discovered, it comes from the courage to pause, to listen, and to truly know yourself. Once you align your life with who you are, joy flows naturally, even in small moments. So take time today to reconnect with yourself, because in knowing yourself, you unlock life's greatest treasure, lasting peace and genuine happiness. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Inner Spark together. Let's keep growing into the best version of ourselves.